Emotional content is filmed on Whadjuk Noongar land. This podcast acknowledges the traditional owners and custodians of country. Always was, always will be, Aboriginal land. Come for the stories, stay for the connection. I'm your host, Amy Jane Brand, and this is your weekly dose of emotional content. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to this week's episode of Emotional Content. This week's episode is inspired by another submission that I had from one of my beautiful listeners. It's one that hit me right in the gut, and it felt personal, something that all of us women will be able to connect with, especially myself who used to lead my life heavily with my sexuality. Seeing as the patriarchy and society has done nothing but sexualize what it is to be a woman, it's no wonder that young women are still struggling with their identity and self-worth in the same way I did. This conversation today is about so much more than just sex. It's about identity, self-worth, power, femininity, confusion, and healing. So today I'm going to get raw, intimate, and vulnerable with you all, as usual, discussing exactly what I was like leading with my sexuality, as well as understanding how you can break out of that cycle. I'm excited for this episode. I think it's really important and it's something that struck a personal chord with me. So I hope this can help any of you listening if you're going through the same identity crisis, if you're leading your life with your sexuality and you feel like that is all that you can offer, then this episode is for you. Okay, so to start things off, I'm going to begin by reading off my listener submission. I'm leaving her name out of it just in case she has written her actual name. I get really scared that you guys are writing your actual names in. Even though there's a little disclaimer on the submission form, I just get really nervous because I don't want anyone to accidentally expose themselves. So I'm going to leave the name out, but I think you guys will be able to connect with this story in one way or another. Hey girl, first and foremost, absolutely loving your podcast. I tune in every week and listen on my walks. You are doing an amazing job. Thank you so much, Queen. That's so sweet. I'm writing in as a 22-year-old girl. I live in Brisbane and have lately been exploring a lot with my sexuality. I'm straight, so not like that, but more so in a way where I'm exploring and discovering more about men and trying to figure out my power as a woman. I've had one boyfriend, but it was a very toxic relationship. He was much older than me, love bombed the shit out of me and manipulated me into staying with him, even when the circumstances were absolutely terrible. I'm not going to say what the circumstances were, but it was never going to work for very obvious reasons. Recently, since breaking up with him, I've really noticed how horny men are. Sorry, they really are. It's true. It's true. And they will do literally anything to get a root. It's so funny because you can really tell when the submissions are from an Australian because no one else would say root like that. Sorry, we continue. I feel like I've become desensitized to this behavior from men and sometimes even notice myself offering or over-flirting or even directing the conversation into a sexual place because I think or assume that that's what men want, and I feel like I have nothing else to offer apart from my looks, which is really heartbreaking for me as a woman. I want to be so much more than that, and I know that I can be. I also really don't want to give the right man the wrong impression and think that sex is all I'm in for, but it's confusing, and I feel like that's all men want from me. And I really wish I had more self-worth to stand up to some of them and say that I am more than that. I sometimes feel like I'm a human sex doll. That really broke my heart when I read that. Don't get me wrong, I love sex and I think it's so much fun. I really enjoy it. But I think I have a very poor relationship with it right now, and I find myself giving it to men easily when I shouldn't. I want to come across as low pressure, fun, flirty, young, vibrant, and sexy. But I can't be all that at the same time. No woman can. Damn right you can't. None of us can. I want to find love one day, but I think men want nothing but sex. And I feel like I don't have anything else to offer. Girl to girl, please help. I know you probably won't judge, but this is very vulnerable for me to share, and I hope there isn't any judgment. I know it may seem a bit naive and shallow, but it's serious and is causing a bit of pain for me emotionally. I hope you get it. Lots of love, girl. Oh, Queen, I fully understand. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing this. I know even though it's anonymous, it's still not easy to write how you're feeling about yourself, even in an email. So I fully get it. And I have 100% been in your position. So I think this is why it struck such a chord with me, because it was almost like reading something that my old self had written. My background of wanting approval from men, most of you will know at this point, if you've listened to my other episodes, came from being bullied by younger boys. So my approval from that struck very early in my life and continued on as an adult. So I don't know where yours has stemmed from personally. It doesn't even need to stem from bullying. To be honest, it really is just the patriarchy as a whole. Society, media, social media. It has been pushed on us from a very young age that our worth is based on our looks and how much we appeal to the opposite sex, which again puts us in the bracket of having to be straight. Since a young age, there has been a lot that has directed this feeling within us. So how you're feeling, I don't want you to feel any shame about it. I don't want you to feel embarrassed. This is actually so natural now because of the way that things have run for so long, that so many of us fall into this trap, myself included. I can imagine so many women listening to this have felt like they have had to throw themselves at men for them to be interested in them or to be overtly sexual. I mean, I know I have. I've seen my friends do it. Having the self-worth to know that you are more than that, I feel like it almost doesn't come naturally. I don't know about yourself, but me personally, I not only used my sexuality to draw men in, but also became very performative in the bedroom. I put my own pleasure aside. I very rarely reached orgasm. I could honestly count on my hands how many times I actually did reach orgasm without a toy, with just a man. Prior to Frank. I have gone into that in depth in my Let's Talk About Faking Orgasms episode. I unpack all of the things that I used to do. It's an excellent episode, really, really good for advocating for yourself in the bedroom, especially for my younger chicks listening. I think you'll get a lot out of that one. So I became extremely performative in the bedroom. Like, there was a point in my life where I was actually considering doing porn. I spoke to other porn stars. I was very serious about getting into the industry. To be completely honest, I think if OnlyFans was around when I was in that season of my life, I 100% would have done it. Am I happy that I never went down that road? I think yes, only because when I was in that headspace and I was interested in doing that line of work, my self-worth was very low. It would not have been coming from an empowered space. It would have been all for the male gaze. It would have never been about me feeling really confident in myself. It still would have been coming from that little girl chasing approval from boys. However, now in my 30s, if I was still interested in doing that, it would be coming from such a different place. Chasing the approval of other people and the acceptance of others will always lead you to basically zero, because it's all about how you feel around yourself. And as you get older, you realize that that's all that really matters. I've also done another episode on how I stopped chasing the acceptance of others. That's a really good one on how to build confidence around yourself. So highly recommend those 2 episodes. They will be in the description. Most of you know that I did secret sex work, which was topless waitressing. That also didn't really help how I felt about myself. Exposing myself naked to other men all the time, getting their approval, it just amounted to nothing, and it never actually built up my confidence. There were some good things that I got out of doing that line of work. I learned a lot, but at the end of the day, once I walked away from doing that, under the circumstances of why I left, I did not leave there with more self-worth than I entered. Let's just say that. Because I was chasing approval so much in the bedroom, I definitely was almost a pick-me girl in a sense, because I gave so much and I expected so little in return, and I never advocated for myself. But when I was interested in a particular guy, I did use sexuality to draw them in. I have to say that I did that a lot, and I don't feel good about saying that, but I also felt like that was my best asset, was my looks or what I could do in the bedroom. I would do positions in the bedroom that never felt good for me, but it looked great for them. And the only pleasure that I got walking away from those situations was knowing that I was probably the best that they had with that one thing, or they were going to go back and tell the guys like how great it was. I was very much much in the headspace that sex was a competitive sport. And I feel like when you're single, sex definitely feels like a competitive sport. I think humans in general really want the other person to have like a great review of what they were like in the bedroom when other people talk about it, because everyone talks, even if it's in a really private setting with their best friend, you want them to say good things about you. So I think drawing men in based on your face card or what you can offer sexually is down to patriarchy. It's down to social conditioning. We have, as young women, been fed the narrative that our worth is based on our looks. We have just been pushed to basically seek approval from men. I feel like every woman can 100% resonate in one way or another with that feeling. Using my sexuality felt like a sure way to get a man, the one that I wanted, because I very much felt like being the extrovert I was when I was younger made it so I had to usually approach the man. They never really approached me. I was always the one to approach them, which I don't know if you guys know that, but yeah, I was always approaching. It kind of weeded out the ones that could and couldn't handle me because I was such a big, chaotic personality back then as well. I am still a very big personality, but a lot less chaotic. So when I was choosing somebody and I used that card, it was usually a slam dunk. And I learnt that from a young age. So it continued into when I became an adult. But what does this cost us emotionally and energetically? Well, the problem with it is we are showing up as our unauthentic selves. And when you show up as your not self, then you are also attracting the wrong people in as well. If you are looking for love and trying to call that into your life, when you're going outside and you're showing up as your unauthentic self, then you're going to get matched with the wrong energy of what you don't want. So that plays a really big role in who walks into our life. We really have to learn to show up as our authentic self to gain that confidence, to believe in ourselves. When you get closer to that and start moving the needle in the direction of believing in yourself and knowing your worth, you don't have to be 100% because it takes a long time. But when you do start going into that direction, things start changing. People start dropping off, new people start coming in, and then life will start magnetizing the right people your way. But when you're showing up as your unauthentic self, when you're showing up as overtly sexual, when you think that that is all you deserve and all you have to offer, then it's going to continue drawing in the wrong people, especially the wrong men. The other thing with social conditioning as well, which I have to mention in here, is the difference I notice even with the Instagram algorithm. So this goes into conditioning with social media. Like the algorithm, when you post a thirst trap, goes off, okay? Like it's the patriarchy 101. You post a thirst trap and everybody sees it. It reaches way more people. Say if you're posting lifestyle content all the time and you never post a real thirst trappy kind of hypersexual selfie, it is going to get so much more reach, even if that's not what you usually post. Whereas if you post hypersexual content all the time and then you post something that isn't sexual, it flops. Even the algorithms favor that kind of content. So it's no wonder that young girls are feeling this way because we are always praised for being hypersexualized, looking our best, fully glammed up, showing lots of skin. Like when are we really praised by the algorithm unless you have built a cult following around it for something other than being sexualized? Like, let me know. Because if you haven't built a niche following around something, the algorithm just loves it when you show some skin. So what is performative confidence versus embodied confidence? Performative confidence is where you are acting bold, sexy, unbothered, but underneath you're overthinking, seeking that approval and unsure of yourself. Whereas embodied, empowered confidence, you feel secure and you feel seen and accepted by yourself, so other people's opinions don't matter. So they're the two. And I know people say, fake it until you make it. 100% you can do that. However, I don't know if fake it till you make it really works in this situation. I think this is something that requires a lot deeper shadow work, but maybe it has worked for some people if you fake it till you make it. I feel like faking it till you make it usually works more on like a business perspective or something not as deep and intimate as sexuality, but I could be wrong. Some people might have been able to fake it till they make it with this. Everyone's very different with that. We have been conditioned that beauty equals worth and sex equals love. That being beautiful gets you love and giving sex keeps it. So even when we want a deeper connection, we often knee-jerk reaction offer sex, even if that's not what we really want deep down, just hoping that it will lead to something more with them. There's a balance and a fine line associated with feeling like sex is your power and realizing that it is a way of you seeking approval. What starts off feeling fun, freeing, exciting can leave you feeling disconnected and undervalued if it's not on your terms. Now, coming from somebody who has been in many toxic relationships, holy fuck, I'm pretty sure you guys have heard it all now. Well, no, not really. I've left some things out, definitely. But you've heard a lot. The last 7 months has been a great big fat exposure of my dating history, but it's something that I have decided to do to help you guys. So I really do hope it helps. You said before that you've recently come out of a toxic relationship with a much older man. Something that you need to remember from being love bombed and heavily manipulated is those are scars that you carry with you afterwards, and it can take some time to heal from those things. That stuff carries with you. So love bombing can tend to make you feel unsure of your own instincts. You see chaos as potential connection. Things get pretty distorted after going through that level of manipulation. It makes you untrusting with people. It makes you second guess yourself. There's a lot that comes with going through that type of thing. Even if it doesn't feel like you've walked out of the trenches of a really traumatic relationship, when you go through any sort of manipulation like that, it does stick with you and it does leave a residue of shit to work through. The amount of shit from even my last relationship, or the ones prior to that, it took a very long time to scrub all of that off and get clean again. So what I'm saying is things might feel a little bit distorted for you right now, and that is perfectly normal. Basically, once you've been in a toxic relationship, your version of normal shifts, right? So you might start thinking that breadcrumbing, red flags, hot and cold behavior is just how dating is. But I'm here to tell you it is absolutely not the normal, and it is something that you should try and stay away from. You can also fall into the trap of settling for someone who seems better compared to your ex, which by the sounds of it isn't a very high bar to fucking surpass anyway. But better doesn't always mean good. So you could be settling for shit when in actual fact a little bit better than the last guy isn't actually a good thing. The problem with toxic love and getting out of toxic relationships is walking away with the belief that you deserve so much less than you actually do. And I 100% resonate with that. Your ex also probably made you feel like you were too much, too dramatic. Whenever you highlighted your feelings on things, he probably minimized it, didn't take any accountability for his actions, made you feel small, made you feel insignificant. If it was anything like I have been through before, when anyone states a toxic relationship, I immediately start thinking that they did not value your opinion on things. And in reaction of that, when you move forward in other relationships, you tend to continue making yourself smaller, and you don't want to be a bother, or you don't want to be annoying. You don't want to be your full emotional self, because women have a range of emotions that we go through, especially each month, and suppressing that is not a good thing. Once you come out of those relationships, you tend to just make yourself smaller because you don't want to be annoying, or you don't want to be seen as too much. Deep down, you're scared that if you act like your full range self, you're worried that they will leave, or they will think you're crazy like your ex made you feel. That fear of being made to feel like you were too much in your previous relationship is what keeps us in these performative roles. We want to be the sexy, fun, low maintenance chick instead of showing up as our full complex selves, which is fucking beautiful, by the way, for the right man who will hold that space, who will encourage you to show all of your complex feelings because they want to get to know the real you. It won't be a problem. If it is a problem for a guy, for you to show up as your real self, as your true self, then they are not the guy for you. And I don't take that as a high value man. We need to start filtering out whether they are a high value man or not. To me, that is a really important thing for a compatibility perspective with somebody. So when you're in your next relationship or your next hookup, you will probably find yourself playing down your real feelings. You avoid asking for clarity because you want to be easygoing and shit just ends up walking all over you and you're left feeling confused. You don't know what's going on. You are basically just there for sex and you have no clarity on the situation because you want to be low maintenance. And women are not low maintenance, okay? We shouldn't be low maintenance. We are complex. We have a range of emotions. We have a menstrual cycle. We were not made to be monotoned yes women, okay? We're not made for that. I think being horny and having standards can actually coexist. I know men are notoriously just wanting to fuck everything. Well, not all men. As a side note, I actually really appreciate men that don't wank all the time because they are like harnessing their sexual energy. And there's just something to me about dudes that are always watching porn and always wanking. There is something really sexy about that self-control. This is totally off topic, but I find that dudes that aren't constantly driven by their sex drive, aren't always wanking to fucking porn, they can also last a lot longer in the bedroom because they're not training their bodies into, banging out another wank really quickly, which is just so foul. Sorry. This is just like a personal ick for me. I find when dudes can't go a few days without having a wank, it's just really gross. I don't know if you girls will feel the same as me on that. Anybody, gays, theys, anyone that's listening, if you feel the same as me on that subject, like if your partner needs to wank all the time and can't control that urge, I feel like it's an ick. I don't know. It just feels icky. It's like, oh God. Also, getting an influx constantly of porn is really not good for anyone's psyche. Also, I found out the other day that on Pornhub, people actually comment. People have accounts for free porn sites. How much porn are you watching if you have an account for free porn? That is fucking bizarre to me. Like, this isn't YouTube, okay? Anyway, that is completely off topic. I just think there's something sexy about a man not needing to wank all the time. I stand by that statement. I said what I fucking said. I stand by it. Back to what I was saying. I believe that the two can exist, being sexual, being horny, and still having standards, wanting love and intimacy. I think there's a false idea that if you are a sexual person and you are quite sexual in the way that you lead your life, you don't want anything serious. But in my opinion, both can definitely exist. Wanting pleasure doesn't mean that you don't want something meaningful. Like, you can have a high sex drive, but also have boundaries as well. I think the boundaries and the self-worth is what plays a really big role in this, making the two be able to coexist and not be easily manipulated with it either. I think enjoying sex and being sexual is not an invitation, and it really is yours to give to who you choose. Sometimes we act flirty or super sexual because we believe that that's how we get chosen, and we have been taught that it keeps men interested in us. However, that isn't empowerment. It's essentially performing for approval. In our minds, if we're seeking connection, validation, love, that closeness, but it can leave you feeling emptier when it's not aligned with what your heart actually wants or needs. There's an emotional toll that comes with constantly being validated for how we look, and eventually we just start believing that that's all we have to offer. Again, this runs deep with patriarchy and society, how we've been conditioned. I believe that most women, especially young women growing up now, will go through this, what I would call identity crisis when it comes to our own sexuality, because it's what we get praised for immediately. If you look really pretty, you get told that, you get attention, you get love. If you look like shit, you get told you look tired. What's wrong with you? Smile more. Do you know what I mean? This shit has been ingrained in us from the beginning, no matter what fucking generation we come from. And really, it's only getting worse because of social media as well. The difference between being wanted and being valued is that being wanted is very surface level. It's attraction, lust, and desire, right? Very surface level. But being valued is so much deeper than that. It's about your thoughts, about your feelings, about your heart, your energy, how you see the world. Someone being genuinely interested in that, those core values that you believe in. What lights you up? What are your hobbies? Things that make you you rather than how you physically look. And you deserve both. But if you're only receiving one side of that, in regards to how you look, the desire and lust, it will leave you feeling hollow. Setting boundaries is something that completely changed my life. And again, it's something that I speak heavily in that episode around not chasing people's acceptance anymore and how I stopped that. But you don't owe anyone an explanation as to why you're saying no, why you're saying no to sex. That is wholeheartedly your decision, and there is such thing as consent. So staying true to what feels best for you and letting someone work harder to get to know you better is a power move. Saying no is sexy. I think we forget that at a young age. Like, saying no is actually sexy. You definitely learn it as you get older. In your 30s especially, you tolerate a lot less shit, believe me. But saying no is sexy. The chase is sexy. Like, that build up can be so much sexier in my opinion. And boundaries don't make you difficult. They make you self-aware, and the right person will want to work for it. It builds up the intensity of the potential intimacy when you guys are ready. So yeah, boundaries are sexy. Don't forget that. Okay, so advice-wise to my beautiful listener that wrote in, I think this is a conversation that every woman has with themselves that they don't get to say out loud. You often don't feel like you can even say this to another friend. Even if you're someone listening who doesn't have many friends that you can lean on or trust, it's an embarrassing thing to say out loud because you don't know what their reaction will be or how they'll see you. It's weird because we get conditioned so heavily with this shit, but saying it out loud feels so shameful. There is absolutely no judgment from me. Like, I have lived this. I have been there, girl. You do not have to feel any judgment coming from me at all. You know, when I've done episodes talking openly about my own sexuality and the things I used to do, how performative I was just for men, it makes me feel sick. Like, looking back, I'm like, oh man, imagine if I was younger and I was able to understand the self-worth I have now. I would have been a fucking weapon. It just would have been so good on so many moments to turn around and say, no, you're actually doing a shit job and I did not come. So I would love younger women to get into that place. I know it's hard work, but man, sex, all of it would just be so much better if we were able to feel empowered and understand our self-worth from a young age. Shit would just be better. Okay, so one of the first things that I have written here is to start catching the moments where you feel yourself leading with sex. It's all about catching the thought. It's all about being quite self-aware. So when you feel yourself starting to kind of throw yourself at them sexually, when you're steering the conversation that way, when you feel yourself moving in the way that you have, ask yourself these questions. Am I doing this because I actually want to, or because I think I should? When you start questioning your behavior in real time, it gives you a sense of like, oh, shit, okay, why am I doing this? That way you can kind of pull back, you can start letting the conversation run more naturally and just see how they play things. Stop giving so much of you and let them give more of themselves. See how they perform without it leading into that. I think it's going to show which men are more high value, which ones are more interested in getting to know you for you when you start questioning yourself in real time and pulling yourself up on why you're doing it, because this has become quite habitual for you at this point, which again, no judgment. I think it's about getting curious of that internal script that you have about yourself. Like, are you seeking approval from this person? Are you trying to keep the vibe going because you are unsure if it will continue if you don't have it lead into a sexual way? Or are you trying to avoid rejection? Because we are all quite rejection sensitive, especially when it comes to seeking out a partner. But if you can ask yourself those questions in real time, I think it will stop you in your tracks and see where things move naturally from there. Awareness is your first step to rewriting these patterns, 100%. I think it's also time to stop trying to be low pressure if it's high pressure on you. You don't owe anyone the down for anything, chill, flirty, low pressure version of yourself all the time. That headspace is performative, it's not your personality, and it's going to lead to total exhaustion. You're going to always feel like your cup is empty when you do that. I can guarantee you right now that when you assert boundaries, the right people will not run in the other direction. It will filter out who is high value, who is worth your time. Boundaries is all about protecting you and preserving good relationships. So when you assert healthy boundaries and protect yourself, only shitty people are going to run. Remember that. You do not need the acceptance of everybody. I think it's also about getting clear on what you want, finding the things that light you up. Get into journaling, start writing down some things that are important to you. What do you love to do? What makes you happy? Get to know yourself, get to know what you want to discuss with a partner. Getting clear, even with casual sex, getting clear on that. If you want casual sex, fine, then completely own that and do it from a empowered place because it's for your pleasure, not just theirs. If you want love, you are allowed to say that out loud. You can say that when you're meeting romantic partners. Don't be afraid to say that you want something more serious. Be bold, be honest, and try not to waste your energy on people that just aren't worth your time. If you're not interested in something casual, that's not you being needy. That is you putting up boundaries and protecting your damn peace. And if someone runs away after saying that, then they were never going to stay in the first place. Sometimes saying no in low stakes situations is what builds you to saying it in the big moments. Learning to say no protects you in all areas of your life. And I think when it comes to intimacy, it is probably one of the most important areas. Learn to start saying no in low stakes situations. Get used to holding space for that no and doing it without guilt. And lastly, I've come up with some questions that any of you listening, I encourage you to write out for yourself. Have a think about them because it's a really great way to build your self-worth outside of being desired by others. Ask yourself these things. What am I proud of myself for lately that has nothing to do with men? Whatever way you swing, that has nothing to do with the attraction of who you're interested in. The next one is what lights you up that doesn't involve being sexy. So that can be cooking. It can be anything, whatever you want. For me, what lights me up that doesn't involve being sexy, honestly, helping people, talking to you guys, sharing vulnerably, deep and meaningful conversations. Those are the things that light me up. Cooking as well, if I'm being honest. Next is what kind of woman do you want to become if no one is watching? That one's really important. What kind of person do you want to become when nobody is watching? That is a really deep question to sit and think about. And I think it's really important to write down the things that you want to be without seeking the approval of anybody else. And lastly, list 10 things that make you magnetic that have nothing to do with sex or your looks. This is really beautiful. It's super simple. And again, it taps into that side of ourselves that doesn't involve being desired by anyone. It's all about how we feel about ourselves, what lights us up, what makes us feel good. I think if you sit down and take a little time today to do those things, it will give you a little boost that we all need sometimes. And it helps you move the needle in the direction of how you want to live your life and how you want to show up with your friends, family, in relationship. These type of questions are really important to check in with yourself and get to know yourself better in all seasons of your life. If today's episode hit something in you the same way it did for me, you're not alone and you are not broken. You are just a woman who is navigating your power, your pain, and your potential in a world that has told us that our bodies are our best bet. You are so much more than what you offer in the bedroom, and the right person will gravitate towards you without that being involved. They will know that you are so much more than that. Okay, so that is today's episode. Please remember to send in any of your stories, any of your questions. If you've got some stuff that you feel like you can't say out loud, I am here to unpack it with you in a safe, non-judgmental space. I absolutely love connecting with you guys on a deeper level like this. And honestly, I feel like it's such a healing experience for my younger self as well, being able to have these conversations with you all. As always, I'm sending you so much love and a big hug. Thank you so much for listening and being here. I appreciate every single one of you. I hope you all have an amazing day, and I will see you in next week's episode. Bye, guys. Mwah. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please give it a share. You never know who might need a little emotional content in their life. For daily feel-good posts, follow @_emotional content on Instagram and TikTok. And don't forget to hit that follow button so you're notified every time a new episode drops. Your support means the absolute world to me.